A siege is underway in the Tasmanian town of Port Arthur, where at least 25 people have been shot dead in Australia's worst massacre.
Australia's gun laws changed forever after 29-year-old Martin Bryant opened fire at the Port Arthur site in Tasmania in April 1996. 35 people were killed and another 23 were wounded. Before that day, there were no uniformed gun ownership laws in Australia's states and territories, and at the time, Tasmania's gun laws were considered the weakest in the country, which allowed the 1996 tragedy to unfold as it did. After that day, then Prime Minister John Howard began a campaign to increase Australia's gun control measures. It was not a popular campaign at the time.
Sorry about that, but there is no other way.
Within 4 months, the National Firearms Agreement was introduced. Under the provisions, some firearms would be banned entirely, while a mandatory 28-day cooling-off period would be enforced after every gun sale. The agreement also set up a buyback scheme, during which more than 650,000 firearms were surrendered or destroyed. In the 3 decades since the Port Arthur Massacre, there have been 28 gun amnesties, encouraging Australians to surrender illegal or unregistered firearms without prosecution. In 2021, the Australian government set up a permanent gun amnesty, allowing citizens to surrender their guns without fear of prosecution. But the Firearms Agreement in 1996 also recommended setting up a national firearms register in Australia. That is yet to be formally introduced, though the Labor government under Anthony Albanese hopes it will be operational by 2027.
For decades, federal, state and territory law enforcement agencies have repeatedly raised concerns about the difficulty of tracking firearms across state and territory borders. And this landmark agreement yesterday represents the next big step forward in the gun reforms that were initiated following that massacre.
Under the proposal, there will be 8 separate gun registers set up in Australia's states and territories. These registers will form a national database with names and uses for all of Australia's registered guns that can be accessed by police in real time. It's hoped these measures will address the significant gaps and inconsistencies that still exist in Australia's firearms laws now 30 years after the Port Arthur Massacre.